Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I'm out on a chilly, blustery winter morning here on my local trail, and I brought along this morning the GFX 50S2 and my 45 to 100 millimeter lens, and I found kind of an interesting composition here along this very quiet section of the creek. With all the snow overnight and the low temperatures, it actually has a little bit of slush across the surface of the water, so it's not exactly frozen, but it's got some really cool dark gray steel texture to it. So I found a nice wide angle 65 by 24 composition with the branches of these shrubs bending in towards the creek on the left and the right sides, and some reeds that have been toppled over with little pockets of snow around them sitting on top of the slush. So I'm set at about 50 millimeters, maybe 40-ish full frame equivalent, and I'm going to get nice and sharp right here in the center of the image. Okay, and I am set at f10 ISO 100, giving me about a 15th of a second shutter speed. And I forgot my shutter release at home, so I'm going to use the 2-second timer for this exposure. And be sure to let me know what you think of this one. Well, not much further down the trail, I found a view that I've walked past a number of times, but it really stands out this morning because with all of the snow along the tops of the little reeds and teasels and the cottonwoods behind it, this really subtle yellow brownish color of the grass really stands out, and I think it looks really nice with the kind of subtle fall colors set against the snowy backdrop, the giant tangled cottonwood trees. So I'm set up again with the 45 to 100 millimeter lens set on a 65 by 24 panorama aspect ratio, really trying to bring the focus into those cottonwood trees in the background and the different reeds and grasses and the snow-covered little plants across the midground and foreground. So this is the final composition that I've set up for this scene. I really like the cottonwood trees, how they kind of all seem to flow together. Just a little bit of snow on them too, but enough that it's really subtle. And then all of the different yellow grasses here in the foreground with just enough snow clinging to the tops of some of these plants here in the midground a little bit further back in. So I'm set at f11 ISO 100, and as wide as this lens will go, right at 45 millimeters. So I'm going to focus in first on the foreground. Make sure I get these reeds and plants nice and sharp. 2-second timer. And then one for good measure, I will focus in on the background. Make sure to get the cottonwoods nice and sharp as well. be sure to let me know what you think of this one as well. When editing this image, I ended up going back and expanding the original aspect ratio from the 65 by 24 to something a little bit taller, so probably closer to a 65 by 34 or 2:1 aspect ratio. The original crop didn't leave enough breathing room for the cottonwoods along the top of the image, and it also was cutting off the bottom part of some of the reeds in the foreground. So it just made sense to expand that a little bit and make it a 2:1 aspect ratio where all of the elements were captured and had enough breathing room around the edges of the frame. Well, I think this might end up being my final image for this morning. I'm starting to get pretty cold, and the further up this trail I hike, the more barren it starts to get, and the more everything starts to look the same. That being said, over this way, I really like this one tall cottonwood off to the left, and then right next to it looks to be a down cottonwood that's been decomposing, and it's got some cool nice little layer of snow on the branches, which sets it apart from the background. And I think this will make a great black and white image. So not a ton of color in this particular part of the field, but I think it'll end up looking really good in black and white with a lot of contrast from the snow. And so here is the composition that I have set up. I'll try to block some of the glare if I can. Maybe not possible. But you can see off to the left side are the two cottonwood trees standing nice and tall. And then right here to the right is the down cottonwood tree with the snow on the branches. And I actually think this will make a really good square composition. So I'm going to set this to the square aspect ratio and set to manual focus. I'm at about 50 millimeters. Make sure everything, gonna make sure these cottonwoods are in sharp focus. Set at f11, ISO 100, 2-second timer. Simple, interesting composition. Let me know what you think. What I like most about this scene is the overall contrast. Not so much in the black and white tones themselves, but also in how the tall cottonwood trees on the left are a striking contrast against the down dead cottonwood tree to the right, and also the complexity of the branches set against the clean, washed out white sky filled with snow in the background. Well, that will just about do it for me this morning. I'm gonna have the rest of my coffee and get warmed up as best I can before heading back to my car and sit here and enjoy the view along this creek. Kind of an interesting trail, a little bit different, not the most scenic, so it really was a bit of a little bit more of a challenge to find compositions, but thankfully these cottonwoods really stand out and are incredibly majestic. So that definitely helped things a little bit. But anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you liked the images from this morning's video, and I look forward to seeing you around in the next one.